Cloaked in the shadows.
Welcome to Cloaked in the Shadows. Ooh. And we're back, aren't we, with a special guest?
Hello, Ruth.
Who might that be? They're not going to be very psychic anymore, are they?
No.
It's like, oh, it's that one again.
No, this is a sub-podcast called The Ruth, Andy and the Mandy Show. It's got a river in that, hasn't it? No. Now, obviously, Ruth, sorry, seriously, you've got some more you're not talking about today, haven't you now? So.
Yeah. I mean, as I was just like saying to Amanda there, like she was explaining her experiences after her dad passed away. And I honestly believe that, like, through your family line, it's such a strong emotional bond. I think that's why it comes through somehow. That's why psychic experiences come through. And I've just found that, like, so many of my psychic experiences are kind of my stories, I should say, are kind of like connected with since my mum's been on the other side. And I used to be scared of the other side and dying. I'm not so scared of dying anymore, just because it's like when one of your relatives passes away, it's a part of you that's now gone over onto the other side, and you can kind of like link into that in a certain way. So a couple of months after my mum passed away, I was in one of these telesales jobs. This was a temp one before I got the main one. And one day I was at this telesales job, and all of a sudden this woman that I was working with passed me a post-it note. Post-it notes is another thing that I find are kind of like good for psychic interaction somehow. So this woman passed me a post-it note. She said, "Oh, this is a note from one of your clients." Now, I looked at this post-it note, and what the post-it note said was, "Call home urgently from Ina." Again, as I've explained to you, that's my mum's name. I'd had no client by the name of Ina that needed to call me back. Ina is not even a usual name. So call home urgently, Ina. Now the time of this, again, is important. It was like 2:30 or something like this. Now, just when I got back from work that day, we found out that my uncle's wife, who my mum was very close to, had suddenly passed away. And the time just matched the time that she passed away. And that was like my mum, somehow through everything, getting a message to me that I needed to phone home and see what was happening. But that was like home as in Ireland. But I was like, whoa, that just feels like a message from my mum again.
I've got a story behind that. I don't know if talk about this story. I know it's happened with my uncle's sister, actually. And he's died now anyway. But he went over to see a fortune teller in a fairground.
Oh.
And these are... can be notoriously unpredictable, but she reputedly turned around and told him not to go down as driving a certain road on the way home that night.
Right, okay.
And he didn't, but he then found out the following day there'd been a crash down that road.
Wow. See, the fortune tellers in the
What do you think to that, Amanda?
Yeah, I believe that, you know, you can get contacted like that.
Yeah.
It
means
the fortune tellers in the pier actually do work. They get a lot of bad press, don't they?
Oh, God, yeah.
But I had the fortune told, didn't I, at that thing in Withington? And a lot of it didn't make sense at the time.
Yeah, you did go.
Yeah, when she did like the tarot cards for me.
Yeah.
And she was saying, like my dad was ill at the time, and she was saying, "Oh, you'll want to sue a hospital." And I was thinking, no, I don't want to sue a hospital, because it never really clicked in my mind that it was linked to that.
Yeah.
And then afterwards there was like so many things that like we think if they'd done it differently, my dad might have had longer, or even like, you know, been able to get cured.
Yeah, okay.
And like we wanted to like sue the hospital, but me and my sister were like grieving over my dad.
Okay, yeah,
and we didn't really get around to doing it, but it did sort of go into our minds, and then it made sense. And
this is the thing about readings.
What do you think to fortune tellers at fairground sort of thing, Ruth? Do you believe?
Give
us your opinion. I've got another story about that. I'll tell you in a minute.
Well, I guess that's the reason why I don't like do any of this in person, and I hate to call it fortune telling.
It's a stereotype, right?
It's a stereotype. But I do believe that sometimes, even if they've come in as a little bit fake, it will become them as they go on. They will kind of like become more psychic as a result of it. But I've been doing tarot consultations and astrology for 5 years now, just 5 years, and yeah, people come back to me and they do say that thing, oh, we didn't understand it at the time, but now it makes sense. But you've always got to give them things that they understand straight away, even if it's what you find is people want things from the past that they understand in order to believe the future. And
Yeah,
so
I agree.
That's kind of how that works.
The other one I got was, I'm not a massive fan of this sort of stuff for various reasons. I don't like it. The one I went to in Blackpool once about 10 years ago with my ex-Ben partner, who Amanda knows. So I'm not going to name her because she'll sue me.
Oh.
She's a spiteful swine. But no, I remember when I went in there to get a fortune told, and the woman said to me, do you want the initials of the woman you're going to marry?
Wow.
And it wasn't hers. It was the initials of this young lady here.
I love that. See, that's like a coincidence, and it's more
and I had
a
to
coincidence.
walk out there, and she said to me, "Oh, what the initials? I won't tell you."
Yeah. That is amazing.
Yeah,
No.
I think it was luck, actually. That was. I think it's some
With the initials as well.
Yeah,
though.
I think initials were luck. But the woman who did this reading on me did turn around and say to me, "This girl's a little more than 7 years younger than you."
Ooh.
Yeah, see?
See?
Is that Twilight Zone music again? Yeah.
That's why. That's one that sticks in my head. But I've had some of us, like I said, it's some you go to. You come away with it.
Yeah, well,
the fishing for information sometimes.
you can. That's the thing about when you go to someone face to face. Like sometimes, if they keep asking you a load of questions as they're doing it, that's a bad sign in a way. And they're looking at your body language and stuff like that.
I purposely just didn't say anything or comment on anything. I just tried to keep a deadpan face over what she said.
You're good at. You can be good at that as well.
I think the word you use, Amanda, is you're very good at playing stupid.
Yeah, I know she was wanting me to contribute to it, and I was just like, yeah, and just to everything.
Was that Withington one,
Yeah.
that boho
I
utopia where
I
we
think
went?
there was a lot of talented people there that night, because I remember your friend that came.
Yeah, I'm
and she had
not going to name.
She had an hour-long
I know,
reading
a
about her
long
love
one.
life,
Yeah.
and every time I heard Andy say that he'd been in contact with her, it was a different guy every time. So I think it all came true.
Yeah, well, she's gone through. I've not spoken to her yet. I need to this lady
I
a
remember
message.
that. Yeah, I was like,
Well,
what is this?
2 or 3 times I spoke to her. She's been living in various parts of the northwest of England
With different people.
Yeah.
Well, she's got a lot to get through, hasn't she, from that reading?
She seems to have it where she's not like somebody else I know. I'm not going to name. I think she just it seems to collapse within 6 months whenever she moves in with somebody.
Right, yeah, no, that can sometimes happen. And again, you get people's compatibility charts, and it's like you're really good when you're dating, but as soon as you start to move in with each other, that's when the problems are going to be. But I was really grateful when we went to that boho utopia night. Yeah, because
that place is not there anymore.
No.
But that was really interesting.
It was really interesting. But I saw a guy that I used to work on the radio with, and that ended up being the last time that I saw him, because he passed away suddenly, and he was a young guy as well. He was a great friend, Tom. Yeah, he had a heart condition, and he'd just gone through all his uni, and next thing the heart thing caught up with him. And if I hadn't seen him at that night, I wouldn't have seen him again. So I was like, thank God I went.
I think it shows you though, doesn't it? Like you don't know what's going to happen day-to-day life, basically.
No.
You don't like it. I say no. I have read a case of people that have predicted the deaths not yet.
Yeah.
Have you two read about that? People then will say when they're going to die, and even how.
Wow. Okay. Well, I know that Abraham Lincoln apparently knew something about it, and one of the things I don't know if
that's a famous example I was thinking.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys know much about doppelgangers.
Can we talk about that? I do have theories on that. I'm going to Amanda's opinion first. What do you about doppelgangers?
When I used to hang around in Leeds a lot, it's happened about at least 5 times. Different people have stopped me on the street calling me a different name, and I turn around and then they'd be like, "Oh, sorry, I thought you were someone else," and it was always the same name.
That has happened to me before as well.
Yeah.
So I think there's somebody in Leeds that looks like me, at least from the back or the side,
or it could be that you actually projected. But I just want to kind of like link it back into predicting your death and stuff like that, because I have heard this concept that before you die, you're likely to see someone that's very like you. You'll actually see your doppelganger before you die.
That's an interesting thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so that's one to look into. And the reason that I was really taken with that is before I ever heard the concept, I had this experience happen to me about 3 or 4 times where I'd seen someone that was very like me. and I got really ill not long after it. And then, like, by the third time, I was like, every time I see someone that looks like me, or someone tells me they see someone that looks like me, I get really ill. So then when I heard about this, I was like, oh my God, could have nearly died, you know, so that's another thing.
Yeah, no, that's a fascinating theory, no? I've also the one about you get a smell of sulphur or something, does it, just before you die as well?
Well,
that one's come up and some stuff I've heard before. Have you heard that, Amanda, as well?
No, I've not heard that.
Yeah, well, that's interesting, because I didn't know that was like a well-known thing. But then again, I remember like the week before my mum passed away, I was all of a sudden getting this smell that I never smelt before, and I thought, this is like a smell of illness, was the thing that was coming into my mind. And I heard about these Russian kind of healing women that can smell parts of people's bodies. I know that sounds gross, and they can like detect, just like the way a dog can.
Yeah, you've heard it before. But obviously our mutual friend Philip Carter brought this one to me, didn't he, about cats smelling cancer.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to. We'll get Philip. We'll get you on.
Even if we have to drag you and take to a chair.
Drag you by his hair.
He's astrally projected. He's here now. He's astrally projected.
That won't surprise me. No, I agree with that.
Might pick him up on the recording.
Yeah, hear it, man. That's far enough for me.
I hear David Bowie.
The man who sold the world, definitely, right?
That was my mum's favourite Bowie song. Oh my God! See again. And again.
My favourite one was actually that song.
And again, I have this thing with my granddad, because he was in one of the first talkies that was done in Ireland, and that was Moby Dick. Now I found that every time I was talking about my granddad or something like this, then or thinking about him in my mind, then all of a sudden I would hear a reference to Moby Dick, either on the TV or the radio or whatever. So that then became my default, that my granddad is trying to get in contact with me. And now my sister, who is like my sister from my dad's side of the family, we don't share the same mom in that case, and she didn't know anything about my Irish granddad, and just last night she said something about Moby Dick. I was like, oh my God, how have you mentioned Moby Dick? That's my granddad saying something again. So it's one of these weird signs.
It does something go in the back of your head, those sort of things like that, don't they?
Yeah.
Now, the last thing I want to ask you about, this last third part's not been scripted, is about heritage. Because you know, you've heard about these My Heritage kits going around, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
Now, I want Amanda to talk to you on this one. We've got ours is still pending at the minute. We've both got one, we're getting allies. Tell Ruth about what your sister.
My sister inspired me to get it done, because obviously it'll be the same like nationalities, but you get different percentages depending on your DNA.
Yeah.
And she got hers back, and she's got 30% Irish, Scottish, or Welsh. I don't think it can narrow down which ones it is. And then the rest is like from like Eastern European, which would be like the Hungarian.
Yeah.
And then there's like between South and Central Asia, I think there's about 15% in there. And then there's all these different ones like the Baltics. But
I was going to say Baltic, and I was going to say Eastern European, but I was
the interesting thing is, it's like, as far as we know, my dad's like as English as you can possibly get, and he doesn't have any like relatives from anywhere else. But there's no English. So we're now wondering like what my dad was.
I was waiting for you to say German though, because then that would match your past life. But I was thinking about Baltic and Eastern European for some reason.
That would obviously come from my mum's side of things, obviously. Where mum has been hungry.
And I was looking into like the Hungarian Revolution the other day, which is when my grandparents came over, and my mum was already my grandmother was already pregnant with my mum at that time.
Wow.
And apparently it was something to do with they were the Nazi Germans or something. So long ago, they had like some partnership with them, and then they turned against them. And then after that, before the Hungarian Revolution, they were suppressed by Russia.
Gosh.
So there could be like all sorts of stuff from that sort of thing, and my grandparents might not just be solely Hungarian. They could have like
it's amazing. I mean, I never knew that your mum was actually Hungarian. I didn't realise that. So that's why you're so hungry all the time.
We really like we've gone about well, man said already, don't you? Like you talk about the Asian side of it. I remember that caught your sister
we're
out.
Confused about that, because I don't think my geography's not fantastic, but I don't think Hungary is too close to Asia, is it?
No, but it's like I said. What do you think to Ruth about that? Can it pull up genetics and stuff, aren't they? Like, I know you met my friend Rebecca, haven't you?
Yeah.
Have you met Rebecca? You'd love Rebecca. She chats more than we do, and that says a lot.
Oh, wow,
Hi,
okay.
Rebecca. Well, no, but it's interesting. Her niece, she was sister's daughter, has got massive curls of red hair.
Okay.
And there's no sign of it in their family.
Yeah.
So it's like you get throwbacks in genetics, don't you? So
definitely,
that's why they reckon that could be the great-great-grandmother on the mum's side.
Yeah, and that's amazing. It's like when I found a picture somehow of my great-great-granddad, and he looks like Turkish or something, which again, he'd only ever been in Ireland, so it was like, where did this strange look come from? But sometimes you get people that they say that they were someone else in a past life, and you get the picture of the person in the past life, and you get the picture of the person that's saying that they are, and they actually look quite similar. So what's going on genetically that way? Yeah.
We had the spooky experience, didn't we? When we're not going to name the artist at Stockport Art Gallery.
Yes, we're not going to name him. There was
I hadn't met him, he'd never seen me in his life.
Yeah.
And there was a picture that he'd drawn, and it looked like a sort of skinnier version of me, but like it could be me if I was a bit skinnier in the face.
I'll show you the picture sometime, Ruth. It's spooky. Really
And it's just like, the more I stared at it was just like eerie, like it was watching me, and I ended up writing a poem about it.
Oh my God, that's amazing!
Yeah.
Oh, I need to
find that, because that's in your
Yeah.
Facebook wall. Like, I remember that when that happened. I got permission to take a picture, and he just looks at a man. He's like, wow.
Yeah, so he actually identified it as when I was going to say, what was his relationship with you when you saw him? Was he like, you're like the thing that I've painted, or did you
it's
have
just
like a
I
good
noticed
connection?
it first, and then I think Andy said, oh, that looks a bit like her, and then he kind of looked, and he was like, yeah, it does a bit.
Oh my
And it was
God.
just like, if I lost a bit of weight on my face, and my face was just sort of more drawn in, it could be like the exact double of me.
So did you get the painting though?
I didn't buy the painting. I don't have that kind of money.
A bit Dorian Gray. That he should have given it to you for free for that.
It's a bit out of our price range. It was. Sorry to the gentleman.
I took a picture of the painting, which is an express fee.
And then I was remember your mum giving some real sarcastic comment on that, didn't she?
She didn't think it looked like me, but it's like everybody who we asked who was there in person who forgot who was.
And it was the fact that you thought it as well at the time.
It shows you about doppelgangers, doesn't it? Like, you don't know
again.
There is, with human genetics, I believe that there's only a certain amount of codes and buttons it can press.
Yeah.
Like a computer, innit? So you're going to bring up some anomalies and you're not looking like somebody here.
Yeah, exactly. But there was another kind of theory that I heard about people that are born on the same date. It doesn't have to be the same year. It can just be like, say, 25th of January and from different years. But they will look similar. It happens a lot as well.
I used to work with somebody at Great Universal back in the early 90s.
Okay.
That actually somebody came to start there as a temp, and oh my God, they look like twins nearly.
Gosh.
The absolute the hair colour was completely different. One of them got a slightly bigger nose. And basically they weren't nothing in common at all. And it's genetics.
And now they've just like come together at that. Well, I'll be interested to get your results back from.
Well, when we do another part in the future.
They're due in the next couple of weeks, aren't they?
Watch this space route for that one. They're due in the next week or two, definitely. So
I'll send them to you when I get them.
Yeah.
I'll forward mine over as well. Then you can give us analysis over it in the future episodes.
You should get regressed. I had a conversation once with a past life regression woman, and she said, like, if you're meant to be in this kind of spiritual field, the universe will always throw you out of mainstream work and everything just so that you can explore it. And I totally believe in that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Definitely watch your space. Right, I think we'll wrap up here, guys, because we're not going to run in Sainsbury's and get into our theatre group, don't we?
Yeah.
Thank you, yes again, Ruth.
You're welcome.
Thank you, as always, Amanda. We will see you all next time.
Cloaked in the shadows.